Hello everyone, I am Demented Kirby, and welcome to my channel, the Commander Tavern. The Commander Tavern is a channel dedicated to my favorite Magic the Gathering format. The Brewery is a series on this channel showcasing my spicy brews and other deck techs. On this episode of the Brewery, I will be discussing a new commander previewed from Commander 2019, Ghired Conclave Exile. Ghired, whose name is literally green, white, red, is a legendary human shaman that costs 2 generic, 1 red, 1 green, and 1 white to cast. When it enters the battlefield, it creates a 4/4 green rhino creature token with trample. That's great and all, but the real focus of this deck is its triggered ability. When Ghired attacks, it creates a copy of target creature token you control that enters the battlefield tapped and attacking. This is an amazing ability in these colors because Populate is a Celestia mechanic, but it's hard to create copy tokens in green-white. That's a red thing. Thus, Ghired's color identity makes it possible to run cards like Twin Flame, Heat Shimmer, Splinter Twin, Kiki Jiki, etc. But I'll get into that in greater detail later, since this is just one of the core strategies of the deck. Since Ghired costs 5 to cast, it's a good idea to include all the 1-drop monodorks like Birds of Paradise, Avacyn's Pilgrim, Boreal Druid, Elvish Mystic, Fyndhorn Elves, and Llanowar Elves, as well as the best rocks to help with that generic mana cost like Soul Ring and Mana Crypt. Not only do these cards help for an early commander casting, but they can also be used to pay for many of the activated costs in the deck. Including Thornscape Familiar makes your white and red spells cheaper and thus easier to cast. Lastly, land-based ramp is always good to have, so the deck includes cheap spells like Farseek, Nature's Lure, and 3 Visits. As previously mentioned, we're going to be using Ghired to populate creature tokens that were copies of actual creatures. Having a lot of mana available makes cards like Minion Reflector and Flameshadow Conjuring easier to use. In exchange for making your creatures cost more, they enter the battlefield with a copy of themselves, a copy that could then be populated with Ghired. The copy created with Minion Reflector and Flameshadow Conjuring is exiled at the end of the turn, but not the copy created by Ghired. This strategy is further supported by the other cards mentioned like Twin Flame, Heat Shimmer, Mirror Pool, Kiki Jiki Mirror Breaker, Splinter Twin, and Helm of the Host that create creature tokens that are copies. I'll be talking about the last 3 a lot more later on. Although exiled at end of turn, these are the best tokens you can populate with Ghired. And not just Ghired either, you can also populate with Trostani Celestia's Voice. So, instead of populating generic creature tokens, you'd be populating useful creatures. Although, Grove of the Guardian gives an 8/8 with Vigilance, which is nothing to scoff at. Which brings me to the next part of the strategy, creature-based value. By including creatures with enter the battlefield triggers, you can basically copy that ability whenever you create a copy of that creature. And then you can continue to copy that ability by populating. Some great creatures to copy are creature-based removal like Acidic Slime, Angel of Sanctions, Duplicant, Meteor Golem, and Terastodon. These are great to continuously get rid of opponents' cards that could hinder our victory. Other great creatures to copy are value creatures like Eternal Witness, Sandstone Oracle, Solemn Simulacrum, Sun Titan, Stoneforge Mystic, and Zealous Conscripts. I'll be talking about that last one a lot more later on. Blade of Selves is a great card to include in order to maximize the enter the battlefield effects of these creatures. Blade of Selves also pairs great with Ghired since the tokens created with Myriad can be populated by Ghired. That way you can at least keep one of them after combat. You can get even more value out of these creatures by blinking or bouncing them. Erratic Portal, Temur Sabertooth, Eldrazi Displacer, and Restoration Angel are great cards for this. I'll be talking about that last one a lot more later on too. The good thing about these effects is that it can protect creatures by bouncing them or targeted removal in the case of Restoration Angel. So they do serve another purpose instead of just enabling enter the battlefield triggers. Additionally, with Minion Reflector and Flameshadow Conjuring in play, you can create copies of those creatures when you recast or blink them. Some additional value from all these creatures and creature tokens entering the battlefield can be obtained with Aura Shards, Guardian Project, and Watley Radiant Champion's Emblem, an emblem easily achievable in this deck. You can also profit some more by recasting thanks to Beast Whisperer. Alright, so the deck is chock full of synergy. How do we win? Easy, with a bunch of infinite combos provided by some of those cards already mentioned. For example, Kiki-Jiki goes infinite with Zealous Conscripts and Restoration Angel. The way this works is by Kiki-Jiki creating a copy of either creature. When the Zealous Conscripts copy enters the battlefield, you target Kiki-Jiki untapping it, allowing you to copy the Zealous Conscripts and do it all over again. With Restoration Angel, its copy blinks Kiki-Jiki. Since it has haste, it can tap and create another Restoration Angel copy, allowing you to do it all over again. These combos create an army of infinite creatures with haste to go for the mother of all alpha strikes. Another creature that pairs well with Kiki-Jiki is Combat Celebrant. Its copy has haste, so you can attack that same turn, exerting it. That untaps Kiki-Jiki with the rest of your creatures, which allows you to create yet another hasty copy of Combat Celebrant. Since this creature is a different one than the one just exerted, you can exert the new copy in order to get another combat step, and tapping Kiki-Jiki to do it all over again. Remember Splinter Twin? You can also pull off the same combos by attaching Splinter Twin to Combat Celebrant. On the topic of extra combat, remember Helm of the Host? Not only does it pair well with Combat Celebrant, but with Aurelia the War Leader and Godo Bandit Warlord as well. With the helm equipped to either of these creatures, the hasty non-legendary token created at the beginning of each combat can attack, and its trigger will give you an additional combat step after the following main phase. Something you could then do all over again at the beginning of the next combat step. Godo also has the added benefit of tutoring for Helm of the Host when it enters the battlefield. Other ways of tutoring for Helm of the Host is Enlightened Tutor, Open the Armory, which can also tutor for Splinter Twin, and the previously mentioned Stoneforge Mystic. Since most of the wins are various 2-creature combos, it's important to increase the consistency. The win cons are a particular pair of creatures though. As previously explained, there are various combinations though for the win, at least. This is why the deck runs Shared Summons and Tooth and Nail. Both spells can tutor for any combination of creatures that'll immediately win you the game afterwards, like Kiki-Jiki with Zealous Conscripts, for example. Additionally, on top of all the card draw support mentioned so far, the deck runs Greater Good, Rishkar's Expertise, and Soul's Majesty to really dig through the deck. These spells pair excellently with Grove of the Guardian's 8/8 token. On the topic of digging through the deck to consistently and efficiently assemble the game-winning combos, sifting through the deck also makes it easier to find the defensive cards of the deck. The deck's big weakness is clearly board wipes and control, so why not deal with that with some control of our own? Cards like Teferi's Protection and Rootboard Defenses, which also populates, protect our board state, and yes, tokens phase in and out just like any other permanent. Warping Whale counters almost every board wipe. Even then, if we are hit by an uncounterable board wipe, just flash in Archangel Avacyn, which can also be blinked, copied, or bounced in a pinch once she's already in play. Red Elemental Blast for that guaranteed Cyclonic Rift from the blue player. Vexing Husher also helps us deal with counter magic since our main win cons are with creatures. I even run Life Force since black is also a very popular color in the format. This helps counter targeted removal as well as spells like Toxic Deluge, Black Sun Zenith, Mutilate, etc. Not only that, but if any opponent is playing black, good luck casting that commander. So Life Force essentially locks a player's black aligned commander out of the game as long as you keep 2 green mana available. Evil, I know. While I'm at it, why not include Stranglehold to prevent opponents for tutoring for answers? It also prevents any of them from taking extra turns as a bonus. Smothering Tithe could tax our opponents before they even begin their main phase, as well as getting us a treasure token if they don't pay to. Sundering Growth is a disenchant that also populates, so it's a great spot removal piece here. In case we want to keep our mana available, just in case we need to use it for responses, Vedalken Orrery helps us treat the end of step before our turn as our actual main phase. It also allows us to cast our creature-based value at instant speed. If after all that, we still lose pieces, we can just make them tokens from the graveyard with Felden of the Third Path, or imprint them with Mimic Vat when they get destroyed. Not only that, but Mimic Vat also works with our opponent's creatures too. Since the deck wants to be fast, it's best to not include any lands that come into play tapped, apart from Mirror Pool since it's just such a great land here. So the deck runs all 10 fetches that go with it, all 3 dual lands, all 3 shock lands, all 5 pain lands, both horizon lands, Command Tower with Grove, Reflecting Pool, Exotic Orchard, and Dryad Arbor. A great land to include since it's tutorable for being both a forest and a creature, which also means that you can copy it and populate the copies. The remaining cards are just 2 of each snow-covered basic land, just in case opponents are running cards that benefit us for running them. This brew is just an idea of how to build around Ghired, Conclave Exile. Since Ghired was just spoiled a couple of days ago, there might be new cards released in Commander 2019 that would make this deck even more consistent. But as far as previews go, this is definitely a fun commander to build around. You can find my current deck list for this commander down in the description. Thanks for watching this episode of the Brewery on the Commander Tavern. I am Demented Kirby, and happy brewing.